The widow told the shy cowboy she needed a man to plant the seed. The sun had just begun to slide behind the red hills when the widow stepped out onto her porch. Her name was Clara Mae Dalton, and for nearly 3 years, she'd run the Dalton Ranch alone since her husband passed in a spring storm that had taken half her cattle and most of her heart. Her land stretched wide and tired, like her eyes these days, and the soil had gone hard with neglect. Down the dusty road, she could see a lone figure riding slow, shoulders bent forward like the weight of the world rested there. It was Eli Turner, the shy cowboy who'd worked for her late husband long ago. He wasn't much for words, never had been, but folks said there wasn't a horse he couldn't gentle or a fence he couldn't mend. Clara Mae had sent word through the supply store that she needed a hand for the season. She hadn't expected him to come. He stopped his horse at the gate and tipped his hat, eyes hidden under the brim. "Evenin', Mrs. Dalton," he said, voice soft as a prayer. "Evenin', Eli. You got my message then?" He nodded once. "Reckon I did. Figured you could use some help." Clara Mae studied him a moment. He looked thinner. Older maybe, though he couldn't have been more than 35. His clothes were patched but clean, his boots worn from miles of hard road. "I surely could," she said, folding her hands. "Come on in, cowboy. Supper's on." He followed her up the steps, moving careful as if afraid to disturb the boards beneath him. Inside, the small kitchen smelled of biscuits and beans, the kind of food made by habit rather than hunger. They sat across from each other in the fading light. Clara Mae poured him coffee, and he took it with a quiet thank you. For a while they didn't talk. The only sounds were the creak of the house and the tick of the old clock on the wall. Then, Clara Mae set her cup down and looked him square in the eye. "Eli," she said slowly, "I need a man to plant the seed." The words hung in the air between them, thick and heavy as the dust outside. Eli's hand froze halfway to his mouth. His face turned red beneath the stubble. "Ma'am," he stammered, "I beg your pardon." Clara Mae's lips twitched, half amused, half weary. "Don't look so spooked. I mean the fields, Eli. The lower pastures near gone to scrub, and if I don't get a crop in before the rains, I'll lose what's left of the place." Eli exhaled slow, relief and embarrassment washing over him all at once. "Yes, ma'am. Course. The fields." He cleared his throat. "I can do that." Clara Mae smiled faintly. "I knew you could." The next morning, Eli was up before dawn, hitching the old plow horse and turning soil that hadn't felt an iron blade in years. The land fought him at first hard, stubborn clay mixed with memories, but he worked patient, steady. Clara Mae watched from the porch, her heart stirring with something she hadn't felt since her husband's passing. Hope, maybe, or the ache of company long missed. Days turned into weeks. The ranch began to hum again. Eli fixed fences, mended the roof, even sanded the porch rail where the wood had splintered. Clara Mae cooked hearty meals and sometimes carried them out to the field, sitting beside him under the cottonwood where her husband once sat. They talked in slow stretches, the kind of talk that fills silences rather than breaks them. One evening, when the air was soft and the first shoots of green showed through the furrows, Clara Mae brought out a jug of lemonade. Eli wiped his brow and sat beside her. "You've done good work," she said. He shrugged, eyes down. "Just doin' what needs doin'." She watched him for a moment. "You always been that modest." He smiled faintly. "Guess I just never figured hard work was worth talkin' about." Clara Mae leaned back, gazing over the land. "My husband used to say the same thing. But it's worth somethin', Eli. This ranch she's breathin' again. You done that." He didn't answer right away. The wind picked up a bit, brushing through the grass like a whisper. Finally, he said, "You brought it back, Mrs. Dalton." "I just turned the dirt." She turned to him, her voice softer now. You can call me Clara May. I think you've earned that much. He nodded, his cheeks coloring again. Yes, ma'am, Clara May. Summer came on strong. The fields grew tall, and so did the unspoken thing between them. It was in the way she brought him pie on Sundays, the way his eyes lingered on her when he thought she wasn't looking. Neither dared name it, but both felt it deep. Then came the night the storm rolled in. Wind howled through the valley, and rain beat against the roof like fists. Eli was out in the barn trying to secure the animals when lightning struck the far fence, setting it ablaze. Clara May ran into the storm, skirts clinging to her legs, shouting his name. She found him struggling to free a trapped colt. Together they pulled it loose, both soaked to the bone. When the danger passed, they stood close under the eaves, trembling from more than cold. Her hand found his, rough and warm. You could have died out there, she whispered. So could you, he replied. They stared at each other, thunder fading into distance. Something broke loose then, 3 years of loneliness, of words unsaid, and he kissed her, gentle at first, then sure. The world seemed to still around them. When the rains ended, the fields shone with promise. Crops sprouted thick and green, and the air smelled of life returning. Clara May and Eli worked side by side every day, laughter coming easier now. By harvest, the ranch was thriving. One afternoon, as they loaded the last of the sacks onto the wagon, Clara May leaned on the rail and looked at him. Eli, she said, you remember that day I told you I needed a man to plant the seed? He nodded, smiling shyly. Hard to forget, ma'am. Well, she said, brushing dust from her skirt, you did that. And not just in the ground. Eli looked at her, then really looked, and saw what she meant. The loneliness in both of them had given way to something rooted, growing steady and sure. Months later, when the first snow came, they stood together on that same porch where it all began. The land lay sleeping beneath its white blanket, the barn lights glowing soft in the distance. Clara May took his arm, leaning close. Looks like we made it through another season, she said. Eli smiled, his voice low and warm. Reckon we'll plant again come spring. And she nodded, eyes shining. Yes, we will. The shy cowboy had come to help a widow plant her fields. But in the end, they'd both learned that the most enduring seeds are the ones sown in the heart.